What's gone wrong at the Met, and how do they fix it? Because these problems, it looks like, have been a long time in the making.
Well, I agree with that principle of going back to basics. I think they need to go back to basics. Hopefully Sir Mark Rowley will look at it, try and get officers back onto dealing with reporting crime, responding to calls. But this story about arrest is a bit of a red herring. That's you can skew the figures as much as you like. The true story is that there's only a minority of officers out of the total establishment that are on frontline response duties. And it's those frontline response officers that tend to make the majority of arrests. So your detectives, your specialist units are not out on the street making arrests. Even when they identify a suspect to be arrested, they get the uniformed frontline officers to go in and make the arrest, then give the suspect to them to investigate. So it's a bit of a red herring, those arrest figures.
Does 3 in 10 sound very low, though, to you, even given that a lot of them, like you say, are doing desk jobs and various other things? It doesn't sound low. So the Sun have made a bit of a fuss out of nothing there.
No, it doesn't, because I think out of about 30,000 police officers in the Met, if there's 10,000 doing shift work, doing frontline response work, I'll be surprised, because the number of officers on response teams has reduced. So they're the ones going out making the arrests. And even then, Code G of pace, without getting too technical, when you deal with something on the street, it's up to the officer to decide that arrest is necessary. There needs to be a necessity to make that arrest at the time. There's no other way of dealing with that. You can't either street bail them, you can't report them for an offence, you can't postal charge them. So there's a whole way now of dealing with people without having to arrest them. Arrest is almost like the last option you've had if you cannot deal with that person in any other way on the street.
Wow. So do you think somehow the public, we have to revise our expectations of what we want our police officers to do? Because I think what we want them to do is we want them to investigate crimes when we call about something that's happened to us. We want them to look into what has happened. We want them to arrest people. We're not that bothered of whether they're hitting their quotas for, diplomacy in the office and whether they've hurt anyone's feelings that week. But maybe that's our problem. Maybe it is just too much change now, and that we have to revise what we want.
There's a bit of manage expectations, and senior police officers need to come out and explain the demands on policing now. Crime isn't the reason for most of the calls to policing isn't around crimes being committed. It's dealing with mental health related calls, it's disputes, it's supporting other services. The police are almost like the last service of resort that people call. So they're dealing with, there's hospital watches, there's crime scene guards, there's so many things going on in policing that isn't related to actually dealing with crime. So there is a bit of managed expectations going on. It comes down to policing, educating the public. But again, as I said, they do need to go back to basics. They need to go back to, if a crime's reported and a call comes in, having officers available to respond and go and deal with that member of the public.
How do we do that, though, Graham? How do we do that? Is it just funding?
Partly funding, but partly the police being a bit clever with their resources and posting people back onto response teams, looking at the amount of units they've got, the departments and squads, that they need all these people doing these other roles and support their response teams. The first thing people want when they dial 999 is a police officer to turn up. They don't care which type of police officer. They just want a police officer to arrive on their door and deal with a call. That's what policing needs to get back to, the basics of preventing crime, detecting crime and investigating crime. They're the fundamental principles of policing. Everything else should come afterwards. But again, it comes down to educating the public and the media, dare I say, about that's what policing is about.